Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Street Tips here, and I've had many requests by viewers to see what happens when we pour the oxalic acid solution into the gold. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try that experiment today. I've got 53.9 grams of pure gold in here. And what we're going to do is redissolve this and then reprecipitate with oxalic acid. Only this time I'm going to pour the gold solution into the oxalic acid, and we're going to see what kind of reaction we get. We're going to begin our experiment by adding our high purity gold powder to this beaker. This gold has been refined 5 times in a previous video. And so we're going to use it for this experiment just as a matter of convenience. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid, about 400 milliliters or so. Now I'm going to drop in a stir bar, and we're going to put this up on some heat and start heating up the gold. Now I'll add about 200 milliliters of 29% hydrogen peroxide. And we're going to use hydrogen peroxide to dissolve this gold. I'm going to pour a small quantity of the 29% hydrogen peroxide into our gold and acid mixture, and we should see an immediate reaction as it begins to dissolve the gold. I've been adding the hydrogen peroxide now for about 25 minutes. I've got just about the entire charge of gold dissolved in there now. I've still got a little bit of hydrogen peroxide left. I'm adding another shot of hydrogen peroxide, and the nice thing about using hydrogen peroxide to dissolve our gold is that we don't have any excess nitric to deal with here, because we're not using nitric acid to dissolve our gold. I'm adding the last little bit of hydrogen peroxide here. There's just a few little bitty crumbs left in the back of the beaker, and I think I'm not going to keep adding a whole bunch more hydrogen peroxide here, because well, we can just add those last few crumbs into our waste container and get that later. Before I forget, I'm going to add some sulfuric acid here. This is in case we got any lead present. I do not suspect any lead in this high purity gold, but I always add a little sulfuric acid as a precaution. It costs nothing and it hurts nothing and provides a big benefit, so I always add it whether I suspect the presence of lead or not. I think we've got all of the gold to dissolve now. And so what we're going to do is bring this down off of the heat and let it cool off, and we'll go from here. I'm adding some ice cubes to cool the solution down. These ice cubes are made from distilled water. We've got almost 2 ounces of gold that we're working with out there. The book calls for at least an ounce of oxalic acid per ounce of gold. And I've found that it takes probably about twice that much in the past. So I'm going to add 4 ounces of oxalic acid here just to make sure we get this precipitation right. 3.9, that's close enough. Here's our oxalic acid. I'm going to add some distilled water and dissolve it. I'm going to add another spoon of oxalic acid here. I don't have much experience with this stuff, and I just want to make sure we've got enough of it in our solution to get all the gold precipitated out of our solution. We're going to set our oxalic acid solution up here on some heat, get this boiling. This is some ammonia. We're going to use this to adjust the pH of the oxalic acid. You can see the oxalic acid, pH of 1. I'm going to use this ammonia now to adjust the pH of our solution. I'm just going to reach up here and pour some in. It's heating up. I need this solution to be boiling, but I need the pH at around 5 before I can pull this reaction off. I've got both solutions boiling as best as I can. Got the pH adjusted. So now we're going to go for the reaction. I'm going to pour the gold solution into the oxalic acid solution. Here we go. Pour it in right now. Here we go. Whoa, look at that. Look at that. Good Lord. That is a strange sight indeed. I'm glad I got that big beaker. I got to get this whole chloroauric acid solution poured in. Let me adjust this a little bit here. Oh wow, look at, there's a big lump of gold. floating to the surface in there. Just going to keep on adding the chloroauric acid solution into our oxalic acid. I hope this is enough to precipitate out all this gold. Wow. I usually add the oxalic acid to the gold solution, and I learned this technique. When I learned this technique, I poured the oxalic acid into the gold, so we're doing it in reverse here just to see what kind of reaction we get. This is nerve-wracking. I don't know what's going to happen here, but it appears to be progressing okay. Pull this back a little bit here. That's how much of the gold solution I've got left in our beaker. I'll be glad when this is over, to tell you the truth. Kind of nerve-wracking. Alright, I've got all the gold solution poured in now. Give this a quick rinse. This is very bizarre looking. I'm going to cover this up and pull the heat back just a little bit because I was getting some steam explosions in the beaker that had the gold in it. Here's our gold that's been precipitated. It's just kind of floating on top of the liquid, man. I don't think I've quite seen anything like this ever before. And it's probably full of air pockets. That's why it's floating. But this thing looks like something from a different planet, man. Totally bizarre. I'm going to pull this down off the heat and give this a chance to cool off now. Man, this thing's moving around in there. Looks like it's alive. You know what it looks like? It looks like a brain with a brain stem going down and attaching itself to the beaker. Man, this thing's bizarre. I guess it's starting to sink down into the bottom of the beaker now. Yeah, it lost all the air that was holding it up. And now it's sunk to the bottom of the beaker. Let's do a quick stannous test here. Make sure we've got all of the gold precipitated out of this solution. And as you can see by that reaction, there's 0 precious metals in solution. Now we're going to pour the waste solution off into a temporary waste container and get our gold out of here. Okay, here's a look at our gold. It's been sextuple refined 6 times with oxalic acid. I'm going to transfer the gold now into a smaller beaker here. See if we can get all the chemicals rinsed off of this. Now what we'll do is just keep hitting this over and over with some distilled water, get it all broken up, and then pour these rinses off into this waste container. Just keep doing that over and over until we get all the chemicals rinsed off of here. Just rinsing it over and over. Look at that beautiful gold powder in there, man. Just absolutely gorgeous. It settles quickly. There's no suspension. It's got a beautiful caramel color with a little tint of red to it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. This probably will be some of the highest purity gold that I've ever had the privilege to work with. Alright, we've got a little water on there now, distilled water. We've got the gold rinsed off real well. I'm going to set it up here on the heat and boil it in some distilled water for a few minutes. The gold has been boiling in distilled water now for about 10 minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to pour this off now. I think we've got this gold just as clean as we possibly can here. So we're going to pour the water off now. And then I'm just going to empty the gold into a casserole. And we'll dry it off. Put it right in this casserole here. Boom. And now we're going to dry this off right quick. Put it up on the heat, just like it is, and let this dry off completely. I think we got it dried off now. Let's take it in and get it weighed. Here's our pure gold sponge after I've allowed it to cool down. This looks absolutely beautiful. So now we know what happens when we add the gold solution to the oxalic acid and reverse the direction of flow there. Let's see what we got for a weight on this. 453 minus 399.7. We've got 53.3 grams of high purity, 6 times refined pure gold. And what we'll do is we'll offer this up for sale on my eBay store by the gram. Okay, this will conclude the video. Thanks for watching.